You're listening to the new media. You're listening to Mitchell Talks. Learn more at MitchellTalks.com and follow me, Scott Mitchell, on Twitter at Mitchell Talks. Welcome to the very first Lyric Theater podcast. I'm Scott Mitchell.
And I'm Beth Adele. Welcome to Lyric's Green Room. The Green Room in the theater. Have you ever been to a green room in the theater, Scott?
I have not. I understand it's quite the place to be.
It's the only place to be because it means you're about to go on stage. So you hang out backstage at the green room, you tell some stories, you eat some really stale pretzels, you sit on some retro furniture that you got probably handed down from some type of an institution, and the walls are sometimes green, and it is the place where you get to know what goes on backstage at a place of art.
And we're going to be learning all through our series, Lyric Theater's podcast, all about what happens behind the scenes. You're going to really enjoy this. I know I have, because I learned so much. It's an educational experience.
Yes, well, education is one of the tenets of lyric theater. So we want to make sure that we're not only sharing our art from the stage, but we want to tell our story. And one way that we tell our story is through this podcast and inviting such fascinating people who really make the magic happen, like the people we invited today.
And our guests on the very first Lyric Theater podcast are
Ashley Wells. She is our Associate Artistic Director, and Nick Bartell, who is our Director of Secondary Education of our Thelma Gaylord Academy.
So the theme of education and art is going to run deep in this first podcast. We are glad you're with us. Coming up, the very first Lyric Theater podcast. We'll be right back.
I'm Noble McIntyre of McIntyre Law. For years, my family and I have supported the professional theater of Lyric Theater of Oklahoma.
For more than 50 years, Lyric has produced grand musicals at the Civic Center each summer and incredible productions at the intimate Plaza Theater the rest of the year.
We also foster arts education with the Thelma Gaylord Academy and our musical interactive, which has reached over 35,000 Oklahoma students this year alone.
For information about tickets, classes, or how to invest in its vision, visit lyrictheaterokc.com.
Let's introduce the nice people who joined us in this Lyric Theater sort of bullpen, all right? But this is the green room. Let's welcome Ashley Wells, who's the Associate Artistic Director at Lyric Theater, and Nick Bartell, the Director of Secondary Education, suffering a little bit with the hay fever. Everybody has to suffer with that in May.
It comes around, and we just closed one of our Academy shows, and so it's been a busy, crazy weekend, and my body has the tendency to wait till the show's done and then go, ha, gotcha.
Well, that's playing in the clutch. Well, since we've got you warmed up, Nick, why don't you tell our listeners about Nick Bartell and what you do at Lyric Theater?
Great. 5'8", 225 pounds, trying to get lower. I am really pleased to be here at Lyric. I started in December. I'm the Director of Secondary Education, which means I focus on kind of the classes and curriculum for our older students. It's been a really incredible ride so far. Before I got here, I was a middle school teacher down in Norman, Oklahoma at Longfellow Middle School, where I taught 6th through 8th grade speech and drama. I've always loved theater education. It was kind of my place when I was a kid in middle school. I actually went to Longfellow, where I taught for several years. So it was a big goal of mine to get back to that school and try to give back to those kids what I felt like I had gotten from there. When the opportunity to work at Lyric came up, I saw it as an incredible chance to try something new, try to give back to the community in a different way, and to be honest, to join an incredible organization. I started there in a summertime once, just as a dialect coach, helping on their shows, working on the accents with the actors, and I met a lot of incredible people. And when I was there, I saw that they had an education department. And I was really curious about that. And so when the job opened, I just had to take the chance to try to get up here. And it's been a wild ride and a lot of fun so far.
Okay, Nick, I'm not going to let you get by with this. There are a couple of things I want to ask you. First off, what are the largest differences between working in a public school system and working in the education system of Lyric Theater of Oklahoma? That's question number one. And number two, you just said dialects. We're on air here, which makes me think it'd be far more entertaining if you could give us a few of your favorite dialects.
yes, this could be good for me. I find that one of my favorites is the Russian dialect, which I worked on as a senior in college because I played Vladimir Ilyich Lenin in play. And for an entire show, I had to speak as if I was a Russian man. And this was difficult because it was new dialect for me, and I had to practice it intensely. My favorite thing to do is to go to the Walmart, and I would talk to myself out loud in the aisle. To just gauge the reaction of the people around me. Oh, these are the crackers of the Ritz. Could you explain? I would like to put the cheese on the cracker, but I do not see the aisle with the. Could you help me?
You are crazy.
And people walk by you and they give you these looks, and that's when you know you got it right. Is when they're like, where's he from? Who is he? So that's one of my favorite ways to practice those dialects. And when I started at Lyric, actually, we were doing Billy Elliot, which is your northern England dialect. For your Billy Elliot is a lot different from your typical dialects in other parts of the country around there. So it was another one that I had to get down. And we would have this expression, "Oh no," which is how you'd kind of find that dialect when you're trying to get it in your mouth, because you've always got to find those signature sounds of your dialect. And it was magical. It was working with actors to help them find a new place, a new country. And that's when I really kind of started fitting into Lyric a little bit and going, man, I could work here and do this for a while.
So everyone listening to the podcast right now, we can go ahead and try. How do we do the oh no?
Oh no. It's a very lip-rounded, pure O is what we call it in the dialect realm. A big thanks to Rena Cook, my college professor, who kind of taught us these skill sets. And I always like to tell a lot of actors, if you want to get into a theater, have a wide range of skill sets. I didn't start at Lyric as an actor or an educator. I started because I had another skill set of paying attention in dialects class and learning a lot from that. And so if you want to get to work for any kind of company, make sure you got 3 or 4 different skills. Get your foot in the door in unique ways. And dialect coaching has been a very fun way to get my foot in the door.
So back to question number 1, biggest differences, and you've told me this a few times, between teaching in public school system and teaching at Lyric Theater. What are some of the things you get to do now?
I have to say my favorite thing I get to do now is drink coffee and use the bathroom whenever I want.
Yes.
The hardest part about being a teacher was that schedule. You start at 8:25 in the morning, teach 4 classes straight, plan those bathroom breaks out. Coffee, as we all know, scientifically and medically, causes reactions in your body. And as a public school teacher, my body was not prepared for said reactions if I started my morning with a cup of coffee. Now I can. I'll never forget the first time being in my office, and I asked my colleague, Roz Grigsby, who is in primary education, incredible person who I love working with, and I asked her if it was all right if I used the restroom. And she kind of looked at me like, yeah, you can do that whenever you want here. And I walked to the restroom, and it was phenomenal. It was really incredible to do that on my own time. And, there's a lot of things I miss about the public schools. Teachers in this state are celebrities, rock stars, and some of the most incredible people in the world. And there's nothing like the collaborative spirit of being with your teachers in a school and trying to make those things happen. And I've tried really hard to bring some of that collaborative spirit here, working with my technicians and my teachers. We have an incredible staff here at the Thelma Gaylord Academy. So I've tried to bring all the things that really are beautiful and wonderful about working in the public schools and putting a little bit of that into our academy. Because I look back at that time and those people, and the teachers here in Oklahoma really are just the best, and they deserve all the credit in the world. And I'm excited to bring some of the hope and love and tactics I learned there up here to this academy that has very similar goals, but some different tactics to achieve them.
Well, it'd be a good time to talk to Ashley Wells, the Associate Artistic Director, who has some great stories about schools and bringing kids into knowledge that you would normally do when we start talking about interactive. But it really is. When I've met the people at Lyric and I see behind the scenes, it's a lot about education.
It is a lot about education. That's one of our goals at Lyric Theater, is to educate our audiences, to educate students, and to try to open up musical theater to anyone and everyone. We have a wonderful program called Musical Interactive, and it changes names every year depending on the musical that we decide to do. Interactive started in 2007 with the Centennial. We were the centennial production of Oklahoma. We did Oklahoma on the main stage at Civic Center in the summertime, and the state came to us and said, we really want this to be available to every single person in the entire state. So we want you to travel the show. And we laughed and said, what? You want us to take an almost 3-hour musical across the state? So we came up with an idea of let's pare down the show to 45 minutes. We have put in different historical aspects about it. How did this state song, or how did Oklahoma become our state song? How did Rodgers and Hammerstein depict the life in Oklahoma in the beginning of our state? And anyway, so the state gave us a lot of money to be able to do this, and the Oklahoman, the Daily Oklahoman at the time, gave us a full-page color ad in the statewide paper and said, this is free to your school. Call Lyric Theater and have them come. And it was amazing. The amount of schools that we went to in 2007, we had a wait list for that year, and it was wonderful. We didn't realize how big it was going to be, and we thought we were just going to go to a few schools in the city, and when we realized, oh no, we're going to Guyman, and we're going to the Panhandle and the Kansas state border and the Texas state border, we realized we need a van to do this, to travel. How's that going to work? So we packed up our set and our costumes and our actors, and we started driving. And this program has reached, at least this year, Nicholas,
this
help
year
me
we've
out.
reached 46,000 students across the state. Last year was 39,000. So each year it continues to grow. The requests come in all the time. Someone different is emailing us. How do we get this at our school? And that's really exciting. We're actually looking at a new collaboration. The Oklahoma Council for the Social Studies reached out to us because this year our production is 1776, about the writing of the Declaration of Independence. And he wrote us just going, I want to find out how we can use this as a tactic, as a tool to teach children social studies, to get them engaged in different ways. So we're in talks right now to bring next year's interactive tour to their, Oklahoma Social Studies Symposium and show these teachers what this looks like and how it can be used, which is really, really exciting. And a lot of that comes from word of mouth. And like Ashley said, traveling this entire state.
I should probably rewind a little bit. After we finished in the 2007-2008 school year, the schools reached out to us and said, what are you doing next year? And we were, what do you mean? That our centennial's over? We're done. We're good. we have no more money. And thank goodness Devon Energy stepped up and said, no, this program needs to keep happening and keep going. And so here we are, 2017, and we're still doing it. And each year we pick a new musical, and one that hopefully has some kind of educational aspect for the schools. And like Nicholas said, this year we did 1776 interactive, and of course the schools absolutely loved it.
So if I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the podcast and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I would love to have something like this at my school, are they only taking requests from principals, superintendents, or entire organizations? And I'm lowly little first year, third grade teacher. Do you take requests from me? Do you help me work this out with the school district? What happens, and how do I get a hold of you?
Yes. We get requests from history teacher, English teacher, music teacher, the principal. We actually had a request from a superintendent of a whole school system at one point in time. So our big goal is that we want to reach the most amount of schools. So the one thing that we do say, if it is an English teacher that calls us and said, I'd love for this to come into my classroom, we request, well, I think it would be appropriate for your whole school and not just a classroom full of 30 kids or 40 kids. We have performed in libraries, in gymnasiums, in what we affectionately like to call cafetoriums. In the cafeteria, there's usually in some cafeterias, there's usually a place where there's like just a little mini stage. So we will perform anywhere, but it's very easy to bring this to your school if you go to our website, lyrictheaterokc.com, and under Thelma Gaylord Academy tab, I think it says bring to my school, and you just fill out a form and we will contact you and schedule you. And it is free, F-R-E-E, free to the school. You don't have to do anything. You just have to have your kids show up at the place you tell us.
And
It's so easy.
So glad Ashley mentioned, how, all age groups and stuff are going to love this. I've received emails from teachers going, are you sure my kindergartners or first graders or second graders are going to enjoy this show? 1776 is a show about the Declaration of Independence, and it has no rapping in it at all. and kids are still eating it up. Just this morning, our amazing actors and tech crew were in Tulsa this morning performing 1776. And our amazing stage manager, Raquel Williams, she updated her Facebook status, and there was a moment in the show where Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin are hurling insults back at each other, or John Adams and Ben Franklin, and a third grader shouts from the audience, "It just got real in here." And the audience loved it. The actors, I'm sure, loved it, and it was so great to see this material, which it sometimes can have language or situations that might seem advanced. These kids get it, and not only do they get it, but they love it, and they're reacting physically and vocally. And if that's not what you want from a touring show at a school, what is? And so she posted that, and she's smiling, and her last thing was, "I'm really going to miss this show." And it's that kind of spirit and collaborative atmosphere that Interactive has that just makes it infectious. And schools want it so badly, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, you just said we're going to miss this show, and Ashley, you've already alluded to we kind of change things up a bit year over year. Do you already have something planned for next year?
We do. It's called Call Me Madam Interactive. The Adventures, oh my gosh, it's a long name, I'm going to forget it. The Adventures of Pearl Mesta. And Call Me Madam is a musical based on Pearl Mesta, Oklahoma's own Pearl Mesta's life. The writers actually say it's not. It's a satirical look at what she did. But we are trying to bring that to the schools, number one, to learn about somebody from Oklahoma that they probably don't know, Pearl Mesta, and what her contribution was to our democratic process.
She was the first fixer.
She was, absolutely. She was the first fixer. Hostess with the mostess is what she was called. And she felt like if you had a party and were able to bring Democrats and Republicans together and actually sit down with a glass of wine or something stronger maybe and just have a conversation about what the issues are, it might be able to come out a little bit more pleasant than maybe what's happening nowadays.
A little more diplomacy
yes.
and confrontation.
Absolutely.
Ashley, can you tell us a story about when you've gone to these schools? You may even have some kids who are restless, and teachers might be nervous about them sitting through a production. Have you seen some interesting things that would catch people's eyes going, really? That happened whenever it was presented by actors and musicians?
Well, in this show, I always, at the very end of the show, I like to have a question and answer session for the kiddos. And the actors are so great. They introduce themselves, and they say you can ask us questions either about the show or about us and our life as actors. And the majority of the time, the kiddos ask about their life as actors. How long has it taken you to learn this? How long did it take you to rehearse? How were those costumes made? But I think the biggest part, we use the word interactive in the title, obviously, because we have kids get up and be a part of the show. We actually stop the action in the middle of the show and we'll ask kids questions. One of the questions from Oklahoma Interactive is, who knows what a surrey is? Some people might not realize what's a surrey. So anyway, in this particular production, Call Me Madam, we have two kiddos that come up and are with the actors the whole entire time the show is happening.
1776.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, currently now, 1776. And one of the actors picked this particular boy because he raised his hand like all the kids do, and he got up there and he sat down on his stool and was given the instructions on what he's supposed to do. And a little bit through the beginning of the show, one of the teachers came up and spoke to our stage manager, Raquel, which Nicholas spoke of earlier, and said, how much longer does he need to be here? And of course, Raquel was, well, what do you mean? He'll be sitting at his spot till the actors tell him time to go. Well, I'm not sure if that's going to work over very well, because he's kind of a troublemaker, and this will be surprising to see if he can sit through this whole thing. But of course, by this time, the show's already happening, so Raquel's like, well,
no going back now.
Can't do anything about it now. And I will tell you, and I was at this particular show watching, and he was so engaged. He was so involved. In fact, he helped out at one point in time in the show. The piano player plays this real low, grumbling, ooh, like, something bad's going to happen. And this kid put his hands up to his mouth like, oh, no, what's going to happen? So a lot of the kids were watching him to try to maybe see how to respond. And so I think it really showed that teacher was so surprised by this child that he acted perfectly fine, when maybe normally she's not used to seeing that, obviously, from him in the classroom. So I think it helps to show teachers that there's another way that kids can learn and can be taught. And just because maybe he's a troublemaker in math class doesn't necessarily he's going to be a troublemaker watching a musical show. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it affects children in so many different ways. And I think teachers as well. Nicholas was saying that we've been contacted by teachers and bring this to my school so I can learn that maybe there are other ways that kids can learn history. It's not always fun, right? Learning numbers and learning dates and all that.
Yeah, when you're stuck with some curriculum, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, you're handed curriculum or you've inherited curriculum, sometimes it's a little bit harder at that moment to be creative for the kinetic learner. Mm-hmm. We look at the pieces of paper and we say, oh, well, this is my lesson plan for the day. And even though maybe as a teacher I'm a very creative person, normally, when you're handed something, sometimes you're locked into some of the confines, and you just have to, start writing with your non-dominant hand and do a dance for a minute, et cetera, just to get that the creative juices flowing, or see Lyric Interactive and see all the different options available to you, so that you can really show that if you are a visual, an aural, or a kinetic learner, that there is something for you and you can learn something.
And it's really fun to sit here, as more of an education background person and talk about these things, because we discuss all the time in education tactics called differentiation and finding different ways to take the same curriculum and the same lesson, but make sure that you're reaching students in different ways. We need to know who those kinetic learners are, the aural learners, the listeners, the lecture-based learners, the art-based learners. And so one of my favorite parts about interactive is it's a really nice example of differentiation in the classroom and outside of it. And I've seen, I think there's no one better than the teachers in the state of Oklahoma of finding a way to do things differently, because to be honest, sometimes the resources aren't always there for us. And so the teachers here are experienced in differentiation, and they'll get their curriculum, their state curriculum or their national curriculum, and they'll go, how do I find a way to make this reach Billy, Susie, Johnny, and Frank? And they do that in incredible ways. I've seen social studies teachers and math teachers turn their lessons into short plays or turn them into artistic-based lessons. I've seen math and history teachers both have students create road trips or make their own stores to sell things, to teach money and monetary things. And it's incredible to witness that amount of dedication and creativity, like you mentioned. And that's one of the things that Interactive strives to do, and all of our educational programs, is just create some new tactics for students to feel comfortable and be themselves.
You're listening to Lyric's Green Room Podcast. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. The Lyric Theater Green Room Podcast is underwritten by a gift from Noble McIntyre of McIntyre Law. You're listening to the Mitchell Talks Network. You're listening to Lyric's Green Room Podcast. We're talking about all the great education programs over at Lyric Theater. Our guest today, Ashley Wells, the Associate Artistic Director at Lyric, and Nick Bartell, Director of Secondary Education from the University of Northern Ireland. No, I'm just kidding. If you listen
glad
to
to be here.
All those great dialects. And my co-host, Beth Adele, Director of Marketing. Can you, Beth, give us a little background before we get back into interactive and education programs about Lyric?
Of course. So Lyric Theater, the humbling beginnings, began back in 1963, and we originally began performing at OCU. So we were there at Oklahoma City University, and it was just a small group of people who banded together and thought we needed some professional theater in Oklahoma. And some of the people that I took voice and acting from were some of those original cast members. So it's really nice to tie myself and my upbringing and a lot of people's upbringings in Oklahoma and musical theater in Oklahoma back to lyric theater. So we began in 1963, and our first production, of course, what show do you think we did?
Oklahoma.
Yay! You win. 500 points.
Keep track of those. The points
That's right.
do matter.
The points do matter here. So we did Oklahoma, and it was a summer stock theater. So it was running only in the summertime, and we did that for years and years and years and years. And then we had the opportunity to move our summertime programming to the Civic Center after it was renovated in 2001. So in 2002, we hit the Civic Center stage in the summer, and we moved down to 16th Street along a similar time period, and there was and Ashley will tell this story in just a second, but there was an opportunity to purchase a building. And one of our mission tenets of Lyric Theater of Oklahoma, not only are we wanting to be the leading professional theater of Oklahoma, we also want to grow our own individual talents here in Oklahoma. So we really invest in arts education. And we started the Thelma Gaylord Academy at that point in time. So we moved, a lot of things changed all at once. We went down to the Civic Center for our summer programming. We started our academy. Just a few years later, after that, we renovated the Plaza Theater on 16th Street, and we started doing little shows throughout the rest of the year, not just in the summer. And that has led us to right now where we are a year-round professional theater in Oklahoma, leading the way for not only local artists, but international artists, Broadway artists, to come here and make sure that all of our patrons are experiencing that Broadway quality musical theater and straight plays.
We are the only theater in the nation that does what we do year-round, meaning we have a smaller space that happens from fall and spring, and then we also have a summer space at Civic Center. It's amazing. We are members of the National Alliance of Musical Theater, and Michael Barron, the artistic director, and I go every year in October to New York, and we meet every other musical theater company in the U.S. and actually abroad. And everyone looks at our schedule and says, how do you do that? How do you have two spaces and you guys work all year long? So we're from Oklahoma. We're rock stars.
Well, it's really cool to be Ashley. Okay, that's a really interesting story, and it sounds like a great job. But I know you work like crazy to get these productions underway and out to people who are patrons and people who enjoy live theater and musicals. And I think that when you look at what's happened in the Plaza District, what's that saying? If you build it, the food will come. I mean, it's just,
right.
It's incredible what Lyric has not done just for the live performances, but what you've done for that community in that area down there. It's a renaissance. And if you haven't been to the Plaza District, you've got to go do it in conjunction with a performance, and we'll tell you how to get those tickets here shortly. Ashley, tell us something that we walk away from this podcast going, I didn't know that. It seems very serious. These are serious actors you work with. You're doing these great education programs, but there's also some fun, right?
There's a lot of fun. So 2 years ago, okay, funny story, for theater people, a lot of the weird things that might happen in theater are normal to us. So you don't think anything of it. We had 2 years ago, it was the idea of our development department to send a lot of our donors on a tour backstage. And of course we thought, well, that's a lot of fun, right? So I'm taking a group of wonderful people who are longtime Lyric Theater supporters, but maybe have never seen anything that goes on backstage. So we were going backstage at the Civic Center, and downstairs by the pit, which is where the orchestra plays, is where our sound department sets up all their stuff. You have to realize sometimes we have a cast of 24 and each person has a microphone. There's 24 microphones. There's 24 mic packs. That's 24 elements. Elements are the thing that the microphone's on that's either I have my hand next to my cheek right now. It's either by either cheek or on your forehead. The little bump that people see that I think maybe some people don't know what that is. Anyway, we had a donor walking by the table, and he looked down at this box that we had, and I happened to notice what he was looking at. I thought, oh, wow, what's he going to say? And he raised his hand and he said, so can you tell me what this box of condoms is for? I went, oh, yeah, okay, that might be odd for somebody to see. Oh, we're not talking a little box that you buy at Walgreens, right? We're talking a full-on
Economy pack.
Condoms. So I said, well, we wrap our mic packs in that. And eyes just kind of got bigger, and I realized, okay, I guess I need to give a little bit more information. So we put our mic packs inside condoms so that they don't get shorted out by actors sweating. We have, the actors are in many layers of costume sometimes. They're under the hot lights, and so they sweat. And some actors sweat a lot more than other actors. So if you have that mic pack right next to an actor's skin and they start sweating, well, the odds of that mic pack going dead is very, very high. So you put them in condoms. Sometimes you have to double condom them. And so that can be pretty expensive. And actually, it was at the end of the conversation, the donor was, well, that makes complete sense. And I never knew that you would go through that many condoms and that many batteries in the summertime. So
it makes for fun work of an audit and explaining everything that shows up on the financial statements too.
Right. Or it's hard when we have interns in the summer and we have to tell them to go buy a box of condoms.
Probably safer, better going to look at sausage being made, right? I mean, these are the things behind the scenes that people don't appreciate and probably never even think of. I got to tell you, live theater and condoms, I've never had those two thoughts at one time.
There you go. You learn something new every day.
So there's a lot behind the scenes. We were fortunate, Candace and I, at one point to go see, when you were preparing for Oklahoma a few years ago, to go over to the academy and just watch the people working out. It's tremendously athletic. I mean, it's incredible in terms of athleticism. I can't even imagine what it's like behind stage during a program, because before Oklahoma, we went backstage and we were just in wonderment. How do you do all of these things in this cramped little space?
Well, it's choreography in and of itself. Backstage, our crew is amazing. They will have their own rehearsals. It's usually only one evening, though. So the actors have rehearsed for 10 days, and the crew gets one shot at it, where they have to rehearse, okay, so this group of people is moving, this set piece this way, so you got to make sure you move out of there because this set piece has to come off stage. It's a dance, and you just have to be cognizant of everything that's going on around you. One actor might have to run off stage left and change her clothes while the windmill is also coming off stage left. So you want to make sure that nobody's going to run into each other, right? It's amazing. Stage managers are probably the hardest working people in theater, musical theater especially, because they are in charge of all the working parts. Where is this going to happen? How's that going to happen? How long? We have to, in rehearsal, our stage manager is in charge of recording how long an actor, if there's one actor that has have to change clothes and they go off stage left and they have to change clothes and then come back on stage right, they record that amount of time so then they can go back to the dresser and say, okay, they have 3 seconds. Are they going to be able to make that change and come on? And if that doesn't happen, then we have to adjust. Either they have to make them change on the one side of the stage before they can enter, or sometimes the stage manager will come to the director and say, this isn't going to work. You need to reblock it. And then he pulls his hair out and we all start over.
And I've always thought that that's incredible, and it's great to have some time to kind of thank all those technical people, because it's one of those jobs where if they're doing it right, people won't know they've done anything at all because it's so seamless. And the only times you really notice those things is when, oops, the costume's not sewn up all the way, or that window is hanging the way it's not supposed to be. That's when you notice it. And so it's really incredible to see all those things come together. And oftentimes, especially for our academy shows, we'll have volunteer students. My crew for my show this weekend was high school and college students who needed some volunteer hours. And so they weren't getting paid and they were running around ragged, and they made that show happen. I can't count the number of times I said thank you this weekend, and I was really grateful to do it.
Well, it's funny you bring all of that up. Not funny, but advantageous that you bring all of that up, because Lyric theater engages in so many different ways of trying to give people who want to be a part of live theater experience and education. And we accept applications for interns on the production end, people to be the interns for stage management or an assistant stage manager, so that they can really try it all out and develop those skills, whether they want to be on the stage, behind the stage, or just be a better educated patron of the arts. You can't go wrong with having this type of education. And when you're sitting here and you're listening to the podcast and thinking, oh my gosh, there's so much opportunity, sometimes you can get overwhelmed and you think, where do I start? Where can I begin? Do I start this for my children? Do I start this for myself? And since we're talking about the Thelma Gaylord Academy, let's start with how do we start it for the children? And if you are somebody, even with adults, we have been known to allow some adults in these education programs. But if I'm thinking, how do I get involved in this time commitment wise? But then also, since all of our children are in so many different things, I think to myself, what can I afford? So there's a monetary component to a lot of this, a travel component to a lot of this. Nick, if I have lots of children, and if I want my children to be involved in any of these classes, what classes can my kids take? And how can I make it all happen?
Well, we're trying really hard, Roz and I, to broaden the scope of the Academy as well. Every fall or summer or spring, we'll have a brochure that will go out both online and in physical copies that will kind of tell parents what we offer, what the classes cost, and what's available. One of the things we're really excited about this fall is that we're trying to roll out more opportunities, like you said, so people can get involved in theater in a variety of different ways. We've got some new classes coming out in the fall, like stage combat, which has been a really big thing that kids want to get involved in. Improvisational classes for those moments where things kind of go wrong on stage. We're going to be offering a playwriting class in conjunction with our acting class so that young people can write pieces of theater, monologues, scenes, or things like that, and then turn around and see it acted out in the same hour by the acting students so that we're having students collaborating together to create art. Those playwriting students who have looked at our schedule before and gone, well, I don't know if I really want to act, but I love being a part of this. When I was at the middle school, one of the first projects I did was, plays written by kids to be performed by kids, and seeing a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader light up because their work is being produced is incredible. I know adult playwrights who have never seen their work produced. So we're trying new things like that, playwriting classes in conjunction with acting classes. We have musical theater and dance classes for all age groups. This summer, we've got things from kindergarten to seniors in high school that they can participate in. So it's really, really exciting to have that many cool opportunities.
Now, Nick, that all sounds fabulous, and I want to take every single class, but I don't think I can afford to do that.
And
Help me out.
That's an email that we get often, and I got to say, one of my most favorite parts of this job that I have now is being in charge of helping make sure our scholarship information gets out there and gets doled out. We have an enormous amount of scholarships, thanks to several incredible donors that we get to give out to students to make sure that they get the opportunity to come be a part of the theater. Theater classes are places where students feel comfortable, and our goal is to make sure students get there. Our scholarship opportunities are available to everyone as well. A common question that I've heard often with our scholarship requests are, I feel like I make too much money on my tax return to really be eligible for a scholarship. And I try to tell parents, we focus on need-based scholarships. And need it takes a lot of different forms. You might make a whole lot of money, but you've got 5 children, and each one of those kids wants to do something. Baseball, football, basketball, theater, dance, science, technology, engineering. So you're paying for your students to find their homes and find their love. And even though you might make a lot of money, that adds up. Need-based could be medical. We've got students that have medical conditions or have things come up in the summer. We make a lot of money, but my kid both broke his ankles being a skateboarder this summer, and that took a lot away from us. Scholarships at Lyric are about need. And one of the best parts about that is when you apply for a scholarship here at Lyric's Thelma Gaylord Academy, one of the things we request is a letter from you expressing, why you want your children to be involved in theater, and a letter from your kid telling us why they want to be involved in Lyric. And it has been an amazing opportunity to read those letters and hear from the parents that say, my kid has been shy their entire life. We were gracious enough to get a scholarship and do a production, and every day when I picked my kid up, they were high-fiving all of their fellow classmates. I watched them stand up on stage and deliver a monologue or sing a song, something I didn't even know that they could do. And these parents are just lighting up to tell us why their kid needs to be here. And then you turn around and you read the letter from their 6-year-old that says, I want to know how actors say their lines like they've never said them before, even though I know that they do. Or I really want to be a singer. I'm only okay, but I'd like to be great. Those are the examples, drawings of themselves on the stage. And you read those letters and you go, this is why the kid needs to be here. And I get the opportunity to speak with our education board and tell those stories. We sit around at a big table, and I go, all right, here's student one. And student one needs to be here for these reasons, and they love this place. And this is the story of how they got here and where they want to go from here. And you tell those stories, and our education committee lights up, and they go, this kid needs to be here. And those kids are in all different kinds of tax brackets. Those kids are in all different kinds of educational levels from kindergarten up through high school. But the common thread is they need theater. They need a comfortable place. They need a place that encourages them to be themselves. They need a place where they feel loved. And that has always been, as an educator especially, my primary goal, I tell students, is my job is to create a comfortable atmosphere where you're willing to try new things and be yourself.
You just said they need theater. Well, lyric theater really is founded on the thought and the belief that everyone needs theater. And you mentioned some of the classes that are available to take, such as improvisation. I don't know about you guys. I'm improvising right now in the podcast. So I'm wondering, Ashley, didn't you mention kind of some things that you've heard in the past about why everybody needs some type of theater training? Because it's not just for somebody who's on the stage, right? I mean, I'm using it now, you're using it now, and we're sitting on this awesome retro couch in Lyric's green room.
Absolutely. We, when the Academy started, they did not have a place to perform. And one of the big things that our board at the time wanted to do was to give them a home. There's only so much you can do in the classroom, but you need to be able to perform, right, in front of people. So that was one of the big impetuses to raise the money to renovate the Plaza Theater on 16th Street. And Mike Turpin was huge. Hi, Mike Turpin. Mike Turpin was huge in getting that money raised for the Academy, or for the Plaza Theater. And one of the big things that he would tell a lot of the people that he was asking money from was, we need to help these kids. He had a fabulous saying, and I'm sorry, Mike, if I ruin it, but we need to hear the sound of, children need to hear the sound of their voice from the courtroom to the boardroom, not only just on stage. So giving a child, like Nicholas was saying, that you get somebody shy, that maybe they're not going to go off and be on Broadway, maybe they're not going to go be on a cruise ship, but they know at some point in time they're going to have to talk in front of people. I mean, how did you start, Mr. Scott, right? Now you're talking in front of millions of people, right? Probably
fifth grade acting class, plays.
There you go. There you go. So we have students of, like Nicholas was saying, all ranges, people that have maybe never sung or acted or even danced at all, to people that they know this is their trajectory. They know they want to be on Broadway. And we are very lucky and honored to have many people that are actually currently on Broadway that are from the Academy. We have many people that are on cruise ships. We have several graduates that perform regionally. But a fabulous story that I love, Mr. Jared Lepley is a surgeon at OSU Medical Center, and he came to us and said, I want to be in the Academy. I'm not going to be a performer. I don't think I can sing. I don't think I can dance. I don't think I can act. I'm probably a triple threat in the wrong way. But I know I want to be a surgeon, and I know at some point in time in my life I'm going to have to get up and talk and give presentations. And lo and behold, he started taking classes. And by the way, Jared does have a nice voice, and he was a nice little actor. Maybe not the best dancer, I'll give him that. But and he performed with us.
I don't want him dancing when he's working on me, by the way. No.
Right.
Yeah, but he can sing all he wants.
Absolutely. Anyway, so theater can reach any child, anytime, any adult for that matter, to give them the confidence that they need to do what they want to do with their life.
And to
no
put
matter
just
what it
a
is.
little button on that, when I try to talk to people and stress the importance of our jobs, I always tell people, especially in the educational sense, theater often gets lumped in with the humanities. And if there's one thing all of these kids and all of these people have in common is that we're human beings. And the humanities just make you better at that. Theater makes you worldly. Theater makes you observational. Theater makes you confident. Theater makes you heartfelt. And I can't think of a single job or anything where those skills wouldn't come in handy and make you just better at being around this place that we all have to share. And so it's really important. And the younger we get to start students on that journey of observation and worldliness, the better. And that's what the Academy strives to do with our age ranges.
All right, let's take a quick break. You're listening to Lyric's Green Room Podcast. We'll come back, another segment, talk about some of the business angles. Just because you walk in the door at Lyric, it doesn't mean that you are going to be an actor. There are many skills that you can learn at Lyric Theater, and we'll tell you about that when we come right back. You're listening to Lyric Theater's Green Room Podcast. Learn more about Lyric Theater at lyrictheaterokc.com. We're back at Lyric's Green Room, the podcast that we bring to you each month. Very glad that you're listening. Ashley Wells, the Associate Artistic Director of Lyric, Nick Bartell, the Director of Secondary Education, and my co-host, or I'm her co-host, Beth Adele, the Director of Marketing. I like that as well. I like that as well. Now, I was struck by something. There are so many things that I'm learning just from this first podcast, and we have many more planned down the road. But careers in entertainment. Mm-hmm. Remember when I was at the University of Oklahoma back before electricity, one of the professors at the OU School of Journalism told me, he said, well, you can't sing and you can't dance. You're not very good looking. Perhaps you should think about being a writer. And he was not joking. And the reason he said this to me was because we have plenty of actors and we have plenty of producers. What we don't have in Hollywood are real good material. Mm-hmm. And he said that will always keep somebody. And Nick, earlier you were talking about playwrights and about how they're not making the classics every day, right? But I'm also struck by the fact that there are many careers when people walk through the door, maybe they're coming to learn, but there's also producers. There are also people who, as we talked earlier about backstage work, all these different careers that are not singing and dancing.
Absolutely. Art imitates life in a variety of ways, on the stage and then behind the stage. And at Lyric Theater, we have a small but mighty staff, and that staff brings so many talents and so many skill sets to the table, and they've all learned them in a variety of ways through school or through experience. And a lot of our universities and our career techs are picking up on these skills that need to be taught and making majors, minors, and certificate programs to support all of these different skill sets, such as graphic design, videography, cinematography, audio design, audio engineering, and we also need the journalism. We need public relations. We need event coordinators, and project management. And we're starting to see a lot of these different skill sets come to the forefront in these different degree programs that people are able to study. So if you aren't that person who's on the stage in front of the camera, you're nothing without everybody behind the camera. I mean, if you were that person who used to make clothes for your dolls, if you like to put together and paint all of your different model cars and model airplanes, we've got a job for you in the theater. And that is who we want. That is who we celebrate, because we bring everyone together. You briefly mentioned that producing end of things. Lyric Theater cannot do what it does without a lot of different producers. Sure, we've got the larger monetary supporters to produce much of what we do. However, anybody who donates money to Lyric Theater produces our art. And that's a job in of itself. It's an investment. And we love to give people an opportunity to invest in our art. You know, the academy that we've been talking about, the name of the academy is Thelma Gaylord Academy. And even though Thelma Gaylord was, you know, is a very well-known name, wonderful person, we named it after Thelma Gaylord because there was a large gift given over time to lyric theater to support the arts. So we have a lot of that opportunity to make sure that we can continue to produce what we are dreaming of producing for all of our students, as well as that amazing fourth tenet of our mission of enriching the lives of all Oklahomans.
Interactive would not still be happening 10 years later if it weren't for all of our sponsors. Because Lyric does not put one money towards it. Obviously, except our hard work and the actors, but it is all completely, fully funded by people outside of Lyric Theater. It's amazing. We would not be here without our wonderful support of Interactive.
Always have those opportunities. You know, if you've got money or you've got a skill, there's probably a home for you in the theater, in live theater. I used to work in career services at an Oklahoma college university for a while, and I used to be able to make outreach presentations to a lot of different programs, and they're usually the career programs, the career courses, those capstone senior courses. But sometimes I had the opportunity to speak with the freshmen and the sophomores or the people entering the programs, and every time I spoke with those programs, I did a lot of research on the soft skills that they learned as a result of being in those programs. And those soft skills were the skills that all employers wanted to see. They would come and say, you know what, I can train that stuff on the job. I can tell them how to use that widget. I can tell them how to make that gadget or use that application. But what I really need is somebody who has spatial reference, has somebody who can be on time, very prompt, very respectful, somebody who can speak well, has amazing mechanical and grammar skills. I need someone who can exhibit an outstanding professional, and then I'll train the other stuff. And that's what live theater, what the academy does. And it was so neat when I would do those outreach presentations when I finally got to go to the majors in the fine arts, because they were the easiest presentations I could give. Because they would sit there and they were probably working on something like building their own website to be able to market themselves. And they were sitting there wondering, well, what do I put on this? What if I need to stay in Oklahoma? Or what if I need to move back home? Or what if I really am becoming very professional in this specific art form? What do I say about myself? And it was so simple. I just went down, the top. If you Google it and you say soft skills or top soft skills, many times at the top of the list, it'll have this list of top 63. So the top 63 soft skills, and I could just check mark every one of them that they have learned in the process of studying live theater.
It's an amazing story. So it is so much different than folks like me when we look at the outside of that building, when we walk into a performance. We don't have any idea of the depth of skills that are there, about what it takes to make one of these performances come alive, what you're doing behind the scenes and educating Ashley with Interactive and Nick going to these schools and working with these students. It's so very foreign to me, but it makes such perfect sense, Ashley.
Absolutely. I think something else I want to say about Lyric Theater, and that I feel like we still are educating our audiences on, is that we produce live theater here in Oklahoma. So your ticket that you are paying for stays in Oklahoma. A lot of people get confused, especially since our summer shows are at the Civic Center, that they get confused between us and the tours that come in currently right now. Lion King is playing at the Civic Center. And so we will get calls and things saying we would like tickets for Civic Center, for Lion King. It was, well, that's not us. Oh, well, what do you mean that's at the Civic Center? Well, that's a touring show. That's a for-profit company. That's not Lyric Theater, a nonprofit, built and bred and raised here in Oklahoma, and your tax dollar stays right here. So I think that's something that attests to our educating of audiences, educating of students, and all the different jobs and opportunities that are here for Oklahomans.
Funny enough, we actually had a couple come to our show, Some Assembly Required, which was our center stage upper show kind of for our middle school and high school students, and they came to our production this weekend with their Lion King tickets and tried to get them scanned at the door. And our usher had to say, well, this is for the Lion King over at the Civic Center. And I was like, you should stay here, though, because our middle school and high school production is really, really strong. You could consider staying. They didn't. But I hope they had a lovely time at the Lion King. But it kind of goes to show how much, we want to communicate, that, the Lyric Theater has some different stuff also. And to get mixed up with national tours is pretty cool because our quality is there.
Absolutely. We pride ourselves on that. It's actually difficult for people to tell the difference between a touring show and our production.
That is for real, as they say, as the kids say. Nick, what's next for you? What do people need to know you're going to be doing the summertime and on into the fall?
Well, we're really excited to be trying a whole lot of new stuff. Roz and I started in December, and I was joking with some folks. Enrollment for our spring season started while I was still finishing my job at the middle school. So I feel like we both very much rolled with the incredible stuff that we inherited, but fall and summer are going to give us an opportunity to put our own stamp on the Thelma Gaylord Academy. And we're really excited about that. Starting with this summer, instead of just one production this summer, which we usually do, we're going to be offering that production as well as 4 separate one-week camps that students can participate in. So our production camp is going to be the Oklahoma premiere of the musical Madagascar Junior, which is very, very exciting. A brand new show that's kind of been making the scenes. Madagascar kids love that stuff. So that's going to be really, really exciting to kind of get going. We're also offering young kids movement and song camps. We've got a children's jungle jam and a creative drama course for wizards and fairies that we're offering that are going to get kids moving and acting in different ways from, I think, kindergarten up through like ages 3 and 4 and 5. We're also offering a 1-week acting camp that I'll be teaching called Theater of the Imagination. That's going to be focusing on a lot of some of the more out there styles of theater, creating brand new things, having the kids do a little bit of writing and performing, writing a monologue from the perspective of an inanimate object, or open scenes, which are one of my favorite things, where everyone's text is the same, but the content is the big question mark. So what do these words mean? What are the given circumstances? What happened before and after? So just getting kids thinking in different ways. And then we'll be offering a rock musicals 1-week camp as well that is going to be focusing on different songs and dances from various rock musicals to get kids engaged in that.
One thing, I can't let you go on without mentioning this because I'll bring that parent perspective into play all the time. As a parent, when I'm looking at summer camps, as a working parent especially, it always gets me kind of disheartened when I see a lot of these camps out there that are 2 hours in the middle of the day or 3 hours in the middle of the day, which makes me think as a working parent, I'm going to have to go to work, take time off, take my kid to camp, go pick my kid up, take them home, etc. What got me so excited about this summer is this, not only how long the students get to study this craft so that they are immersed in it, because the camps, I believe, are 10 to 4.
10 to 4,
10
yes.
to 4. And there's before and after care available. So as a parent, you can take advantage of that entire day knowing that your student is having a great time, number one. Number two, learning, but don't tell them. And that they're safe and well taken care of by the amazing staff at the Thelma Gaylord Academy.
Absolutely. I think Roz and I both come from educational worlds. And so we try to really make sure that, we're thinking of the parent and we're thinking of the student. We're thinking of grandma and grandpa who want to come to the performances. We have to consider those things, along with the students' needs and desires. So things like before and after care make sure that parents can bring their kids here. here. When we design a camp or we design a class, the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what are the obstacles that people might run into to try to get here? And once we identify those obstacles, we try to identify ways that we can help parents get over them so their kids get to be here, whether that's before and after care, whether that's scholarship opportunities. Reach out to us. Call me, call Roz, email us. Tell us what your obstacle is to get your kid into theater camp. And I promise you that we're going to at least sit around and think about, what can we do? Is this a common obstacle? What can we do to help this one parent with this obstacle and make sure their kid gets here? So those are exciting parts of the job too that kind of make this a different place to be.
No student is ever going to say when they come home from a lesson with Mr. Bartell, it was sort of kind of boring. He's not very enthusiastic.
That has not been a complaint I've ever
I would
received.
imagine so.
Nicholas, what's your fall show? I'm really excited about the fall show at the Academy.
In the fall, the Academy is going to produce The Addams Family, which is an incredibly exciting and fun musical that the kids are going crazy for. I think the second that I told my cast what our show was going to be, immediately kids were, I had dibs on Wednesday. Oh, you'd make a great Pugsley. I think we should play this part. You should. I mean, they knew it. They knew the music. They knew the characters. They knew the backstory. And that's one of the exciting things about picking a show is that eye is just lighting up going, I know that show and I want to be in it. And I've always wanted to make sure that the Academy also gets a little bit more regular straight plays going on where the kids get to really hit the acting side of things and make those things happen as well. What happens to the rehearsal process when we take a little bit out of, when we don't have to focus on the song and dance too, and we get to really just eat the acting up. So to kind of go with kind of the dark theme of the Addams Family, we're going to be producing a murder mystery play in our Academy called The Murder Mystery at the Murder Mystery. A murder mystery. It's an exciting, silly play. The script is hysterical. I was looking for a murder mystery.
Title.
I know. I love that title. I was looking for a murder mystery to complement the Addams Family, and this was the first script that just had me laughing in my chair. So it'll be another exciting opportunity for kids to try new things. And again, when we decided to do that, we thought, how can we make this opportunity available for as many kids as possible? In the spring, our rehearsals were kind of at similar times. In the fall, we're going to make sure that the play and the musical are offered at different times. And so if kids want to do both, they can. How much theater do they want to put into their lives that for that rehearsal process? So that's really exciting to kind of complement all the new classes we'll be rolling out. You guys talked a little bit about getting involved in tech theater. We're going to be offering a tech theater masterclass that students can sign up for. It'll be an all-day Saturday affair where the students get to work with some of our technicians at Lyric and go through some of the processes that they do and get that real hands-on experience with working backstage so that maybe one summer they come and work for us and help us out with those things. So it's a really exciting opportunity for Roz and I both to kind of just put our stamp on the Academy and try some new things.
Ashley, what is your summer and fall, which will be here before you know it? What's in store for you?
Yes, fall will be here before we know it. Summer, we start off our summer with $1 Million Quartet, wonderful show with Johnny Cash and Elvis, and then we follow that up with When You Wish, which is a brand new musical. We've never done a brand new musical at the Civic Center before. Michael Barron is directing, and I'm choreographing, and we are working on this in conjunction with Disney Theatricals. Disney Theatricals approached Michael and said, hey, we want you to work on this show. What do you think? Oh, sure, Disney. Yep, absolutely. We're right there. We'll help you out. So we're excited about that show. And then after that, the well-known West Side Story, which it will be directed by Matthew Gardner, who is the Associate Artistic Director at Signature Theater in Washington, D.C. And then we will close our summer season out with In the Heights, which there's a guy you might know. His name's Lin-Manuel Miranda. I don't know. He wrote a little musical named Hamilton.
He knows his way around a keyboard, doesn't he?
A little bit.
I think I heard of that show.
A little bit, yeah. Anyway, this was his first musical, so we are producing that. And then we've come back to the Plaza Theater on 16th Street in October for Rock of Ages. I will be directing that show. And if you are an 80s child, come on out. You're going to know every single song.
Or if you're not, because I have an 8-year-old and she sings all of the covers of those songs.
Yes.
And it really leads to a lot of arguments in the car on the way to school when she thinks that somebody originated that song, and I get to argue with her, and then I pull up the original on YouTube, and then she tells me that she likes the new one better, and so we hash it out. Yeah.
And you show what a real music video looks like.
When
MTV was
when there
real.
were actual
music
videos. Yes.
It's crazy to be a new person at Lyric too, because I've only been here for 5 months, and we just nonchalantly mentioned we're collaborating with Disney, and I'm like, I'm going home and singing my favorite songs to my wife, and putting
awesome.
Mulan on Netflix, and like I'm just going crazy over it. And the folks at Lyric are just like, yeah, we're going to collaborate with Disney, and we're going to do a Lin-Manuel Miranda show. That's just what we do here. And like for me to be like, that's just what we do here. I'm Disney, and it's just things like that happen every day up here. It's a remarkable place to be.
Well, I will say, Michael and I have been working on When You Wish for 11 months now. So when Disney first called Michael, we were all like, ah! They called us in, I guess it was October of 2016. I don't even know where I am right now. No, 2015. Excuse me, 2015. And they said, can you come to New York for a meeting in November? Sure. Yeah, could be right there. I don't know if we have time. Can I tell this funny story, though? So this was all supposed to be hushed and on the down low, right? No, we were not supposed to tell any. In fact, Michael and I didn't even tell anybody in the office why we were going to New York. We were just going. We needed to have a meeting with Adam Koch, which is one of our wonderful set designers. So we have this meeting with Disney in their offices, which is over the top of the New Amsterdam Theater, where Aladdin is performing currently. And we go into the offices, and of course, Michael and I are just, we're like little kids, because it's everything from Newsies and Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid and Lion King, everything happened and started and was created there. So we were ushered into this huge room with this huge TV and glass. All their conference rooms are just glass. So again, no one's supposed to know that we're here and why we're here. This just goes to show you how Oklahoma is and the musical theater community. So we're in talking with the Disney executives, and a huge group of people walk down the aisle by the windows, by the doors. And, as you do, you see something happening. So Michael and I just kind of turned and looked at this big group of people walking by, and all of a sudden this gentleman starts waving frantically at Michael and I, just waving. And so I look at Michael, and he looks at me, and he's like, do you know who that is? I don't know who that is. Do you know who that is? I don't know who that is. But of course, we wave. We don't want to be rude. And I kid you not, 3 minutes later, Michael Barron gets a text on his phone from an OCU graduate saying, what are you guys doing at Disney? And he said this gentleman's name. I don't remember it currently at the time. Joe just saw you there. Why are you guys at Disney? And of course, this is supposed to be a private, quiet, nobody knows meeting. And Michael looks at the phone, and he shows it to me. He's like, what do we do? They know we're here. They know we're at Disney.
Genie's out of the lamp.
And it was an OCU grad, and this gentleman that was waving at us had auditioned for us when he was here. And so, of course, he showed the Disney execs, I'm sorry, but I guess the cat's out of the bag. We didn't say anything.
Disney pulled him into a back room, and he's never been seen again.
Thanks for saying all of that, because I believe our next podcast is all about working with Disney.
Oh, well,
so
fantastic.
Maybe you need to come back with Michael Barron.
Absolutely.
As we talk about how do you do a Disney show. And, we keep talking about this Disney show. Just to clarify, Disney's When You Wish is a celebration of the Disney Songbook, which means this is for every single age. You're going to hear songs from Hercules. You're going to hear songs from Tarzan, from Beauty and the Beast,
Frog and
Toad. I mean, all of these songs that you sing to all of the time, sung by your favorite characters. So if you're a 6-year-old listening to this, go tell your parents, your grandparents that you want to come see the show. Or if you are the grandparent or the parent, come and just say, your children are an excuse because you want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've already set aside a tissue budget for all the crying and squealing I'm going to do. It's very important, so make sure you do that as well.
There'll be people coming to the show that remember singing those songs on a ride somewhere. in Florida or
True.
Paris or
I might wear
Los
a costume.
Angeles.
I might just go in all the costumes that I'll be Jasmine one day.
I was going to be Jasmine.
No.
I'll cancel my fitting.
Man, we've bummed him out.
I know.
It's all right. There's other princesses.
There are going to be some older songs, like from Snow White, and things that maybe you remember from the very first time around you ever saw a Disney musical. It was fun for Michael and I to be there and say, what about this song? What about this song? So they really let us have a lot of collaboration and say what the show might look like.
That's some great music. Can't believe how many
Everybody's
times
favorite Disney song. Go.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, my favorite? Oh, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Good.
Those
I'm
are-
glad
those are
I
the-
chose that
the-
for the radio spot.
The 60 movies. Yeah, the 60s movies. So that's where I'm going to hear mine at. I will tell you, this has been a great joy to be here for the first Lyrics Green Room podcast with Beth. It's great to see you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
And Ashley Wells and Nick Bartell. It's just wonderful to meet you. You're doing great work over there. It's great to be able to take that background information out to folks who can have, I mean, we appreciate what goes on anyway, but being on the outside looking in, we had no idea. No idea.
Well, it's been really cool to be here. It's kind of a bucket list item of being on a podcast. So, hi, Mom.
Thank you for inviting us.
Now we got that done. And thank you. We got her done. All right. Beth and I will be right back after this. You're listening to Lyric Theater's Green Room Podcast. Lyric Theater is on social media. Follow Lyric Theater on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Now back to the show. Well, Beth, that was fun. It's a great inaugural podcast. Appreciate you so much. Thanks so much to Ashley Wells and Nick Bartell. Now let's talk about some of the Academy shows coming up.
Sure. Well, we just had a few go by our Spring Academy shows. We did Alice in Wonderland. We did something called Some Assembly Required, where the students themselves wrote the musical and tied together some well-known scenes and well-known songs to make all of that happen. So it was a huge learning experience and extremely entertaining. But we do have the Rock Academy coming up, which is Lyric Theater, Thelma Gaylord Academy's version of School of Rock. And they are going to perform the entire album of Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to see that? And when was the last time you were able to see something like this live?
Well, we need to hand out ear protection or anything.
Well, possibly. It's always good to protect the ears. And yeah, I mean, it's true to form. You go in thinking you're watching kids and you walk out not knowing their ages. I mean, it truly is a performance. You're going to a concert. And so that's coming up. And then we also have Lyric Theater's big Summer at the Civic shows coming up. So starting on June 27th, we've got Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis and Johnny Cash coming live on stage starting June 27th at the Civic Center Music Hall for $1 Million Quartet. 2 weeks after that, we open an all-new musical, Disney's When You Wish, which is a celebration of the Disney Songbook. So all of those favorite characters and songs. 2 weeks after that, the classic West Side Story. And then we close out that summer season with Lin-Manuel Miranda's first Tony Award-winning Broadway show. He happens to be the creator of Hamilton. I'm sure you've heard of it a little bit.
It's getting some attention.
But his first Tony Award-winning show was In the Heights. And so we're bringing that to Oklahoma City and the state of Oklahoma in August.
It's a pretty busy summer, so people are going to want to get tickets, and how do they do that?
They can go online to lyrictheaterokc.com. They can give us a call at 405-524-9312, or they can visit us in person at 1727 Northwest 16th Street in the Plaza District.
Well, thanks for listening to Lyric Theater's Green Room, and we'll be back next month with something really special. And next month, we're going to be talking to the great Michael Barron.
The one and only producing artistic director of Lyric Theater of Oklahoma, Michael Barron, all on how to produce a Disney show.
That's going to be great. Thanks for listening to Lyric's Green Room. I'm Scott Mitchell. Have a great day. You're listening to the new media, the Mitchell Talks Network. Learn more at MitchellTalks.com and follow me, Scott Mitchell, on Twitter @MitchellTalks.